It's about what you build before you need it.
Can't pour from an empty vessel.
Self-care is not something reactive. That's not self-care.
Good self-care doesn't feel good in the moment. Broccoli doesn't taste like a chocolate bar.
Put it on yourself first.
This is the self-care conversation nobody's actually having with you here on the BetterYou Show. Hey, it's me, Doris from BetterYou.Coach, and I'm with the BetterYou.Coach team. We have the leader we love, Sarah Rajkumar. We also have with us the wellness whisperer, Shelley McInroy, and the happiness igniter herself, Coach Joyce Erickson. Our guest today is Radhika Achari. She's the behavioral therapist out of Texas, 13 years in, and lately her focus has shifted to something she calls growth mindset coaching. She blends CBT, ACT, and behavioral science into it, which is just a fancy way of saying that she doesn't just tell you why you're stuck, she shows you what actually changes it. Radhika, I've been really looking forward to this one, so welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I wanted to start with you, Radhika, because I think that you're about to ruin self-care for everyone, but in the best way. Most of us think self-care is the bubble bath after the bad day, but you work differently with people. You've told me before that effective self-care isn't about what you avoid, it's about what you build before you need it. So for the person who's watching, who's feeling fine, oh, she's fine, and then suddenly she isn't, where does it actually start?
That's a great question. So I feel like in general, that crash, right? The fine. Oh no, no longer fine by any means. It's not random, really. It becomes a reactive strategy to just masking and dealing with everything around you on a daily basis without really kind of pouring into yourself. And so I feel like that crash is something that happens when somebody has like zero warning. So that check engine light, it never really came on that, hey, you're getting low. And I like to work with my clients on different metaphors. So either your energy, your social battery, using the spoons theory, you don't have any spoons left, or just, you can't pour from an empty vessel. So to me, self-care has been very focused on being kind of reactive. Once you hit burnout, once you crash, now how do you just recover, kind of more of that cyclical nature? And what I like to do to disrupt it is really analyzing your baseline, figuring out where your breaking point is before you hit it. So looking at things from a more proactive standpoint, figuring out, okay, what is actually filling my cup? It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to even be leaving your home. For me personally, it can be journaling, getting my thoughts out of my head and just somewhere where I can see it without kind of any other thought coming through. And so I think that in the time of crisis, it's not necessarily a self-care problem. That becomes a repair problem. So self-care should be almost the like non-negotiable anchors that you're doing. Well, whatever it kind of fits your boat and your personality. So to me, that means regardless of your mood, what is something that's going to kind of reward you for the effort that you're spending, whether that's the social energy, whether that's the physical, the demands of your day, your family life, but something that you can kind of consistently make available to yourself under stress and no matter where you are. So I like to work on figuring that out per person because it is very personalized, just like emotional regulation strategies. It is not a one size fit all. It's about figuring out those key behavior principles that you can't really roll yourself into coping with, or using those coping skills mid-crisis. It needs to become something that's more of a habit, something that you practice, something that now becomes part of your routine, just as easy as it is to kind of get up and do your morning routine and brushing your teeth, getting ready for the day, things that then start your mental health, that start giving you back energy before you've lost it all.
I see how the daily habits can really impact your self-care and then maintaining your self-care throughout that so that you don't get to the point where you're crashing, like you were saying,
Yeah.
right? When people first come to you, are they in that place where they can start taking care of themselves daily, or do they need that first fix to start the habits afterward?
So I've recently worked with a lot of teens, so it's usually more of a family dynamic that's being brought to me. So what I've seen is that maybe the parents are aware of this cycle and it being very reactive, and they've come to me because they realize they want to shift this. They want to break that cycle. I would say 50% of the time, they're kind of in that cycle after that burnout has happened. They've done whatever kind of strategies or interventions to come to the place of being open minded and being able to receive that acceptance and my interventions. And so my starting point is always some version of an ACT matrix. So figuring out where their actions and behaviors, how they align, and what's getting them towards and moving them away from their goals. And that's where we start that conversation of really breaking it down.
Now, Shelley, I know that you see people in a completely different state of mind when they first come to you. So I'm wondering if this is something that you work with your clients on.
First of all, there's a lot of confusion between what really is self-care. And when you look at it from Radhika's perspective as well, in a family dynamic, what's behind the behaviors and what's underneath. So instead of like doing all these things correctly, oh, I'm doing mindfulness and I'm doing meditation and I'm doing journaling and I'm doing this, is that what it is that you really need? Is what you really need something you haven't given yourself permission to do yet? Maybe you're not giving yourself permission. Instead of trying to do everything correctly, really get underneath things. What is it that you need? Self-care isn't about self-improvement. It's about wellness. It's about taking care of our inner being, about what really aligns with who we are. And I think we get confused between the expectations of what's coming from the outside and what we really need on the inside. They can become overwhelming. We hear all this buzz out there about self-care, about mindfulness. What is it really? And what is it really for you going to be? Sometimes it's just simply taking the time to find some clarity and allowing yourself permission to do that.
What is self-care? Because it would be different for every single person. And the way that I look at it and work with my clients on it is often at what level they are. And it's almost a reparenting. So for some people, self-care is making sure that they have food, making sure that they have a shelter, making sure that they have like the very basic foundation. Once they have that, what's the next level? Almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what's the next level that you need? What's the next level that you need? And you said that self-improvement is not self-care, but if you're at that level, it can be. That is a very high level. So it really is individualized.
Absolutely. And my clients are mostly very, very busy, highly overwhelmed. They are executives, they're CEOs, they're leaders. So they're taken care of at work and home. And most of the time, they're not taking care of themselves. And like you said, that self-care, it's so personalized, it's so individual. So what I always say that, when you're in a leadership position, you start with being self is very important. And what is self-leadership? So we start from there because there's so much demand on us. We feel like our team, our family, our children, everybody's depending on us. So who am I depending on? That is myself. So do we really know ourselves? So self-care is not something reactive. It is proactive. We have to be proactively understand what is good for us, what is aligned with our values, what is aligned with our comfort. And even sometimes what I see in my clients is hard to say no. They can't say no, and they want to have control over everything. So what they think that I will check on every single thing. So delegation is one of the point I always say, that being an executive or CEO, you have so many in your plates, you have to start delegating, and you have to be okay with it. And once you free up your time, you also pay attention to yourself, because like Dr. Radhika said, if the vessel is empty, how you're going to give out? There's nothing to give. So, and you want to give all the time. So if you are not aligned with your own self-care or understanding of what you have, how much your vessel is filled, you won't be able to even understand like how much you're giving out. By the time you understand, you're actually burnout. So that's when we talk about, okay, we need to take some time off. We need to go on vacation. That's a recovery. That's not a self-care. So I would chime with Dr. Radhika, Shelley, and Coach Doris, and I'm pretty sure Coach Joyce too, that it is not a luxury. It is not a reward. It's our inner strength and understanding that who we are, what gives us that fuel, what gives that motivation for us to take the next step. And when you're in this leadership role, also everybody's looking at you. They're looking up to you. So what are you showing them? Ask this question. If I learn to say no to some extent, is it good or is it bad for me? So learning boundaries, identify who you are, understand where it's coming from, and then act on it. Take care of yourself, because if you don't, no one will be able to take care of you.
I'll tap in here a little bit. That inner joy and being able to be present as being so important. And it really starts with self-care, right? And building the confidence to be able to feel that and to do those things. And working with the neurodivergent people, sometimes it's as simple as talking about brushing your teeth and how that's going to make you feel. Getting into the shower. Yes, it takes 10 steps sometimes for us, but that's okay. It's okay to do that because you need that. And I'm working with people like that. So it's okay. This is what we need to look at doing. And then getting them to feel good with doing it. Right. And feeling that joy inside about, oh, my teeth are finally feeling really good. And getting them to continue to do it is really the important part there. And that's one of the things that I've learned. That's self-care. You have to take a step back. And sometimes I don't have time to do that. We don't have time to do that. We have to make time. And if that means we miss something else, that's okay. That's self-care, that looking after yourself, having that confidence, feeling good inside, and feeling present is important. And it's more important than some of the other things. So that's where I see it with my clients.
So actually, that breaks in on one point that you brought up. There's a lot of almost like shame and guilt with taking that self-care. That's something I personally deal with as a mother. And that's always, it's really interesting to me is kind of that where that first reflection is, or that first, few months of reflection. Is it accurate? Because I feel like that's really hard, really that breakthrough of being very accurate with your reflection and taking away that guilt and shame is what makes your self-care like personalized to yourself.
Right. And it has to, taking away that shame, you have to see that result, right? That's the key, is seeing the result in the end and making sure that you feel done. I look at self-care, it's like, okay, I need to go through this. I need to get this because it's going to help my family. That's my motivation. It's the way I need to do it. I'm going to get more done. I'm going to be happier. I'm going to be more present. So putting those things in there really help me as well. And that's what I do with my clients. It's like, okay, what's your motivation to brush your teeth? Well, my teeth would look so yellow. Okay. What else? So you're going through some of that with your client, with my clients, and with the people that you work with, in order to get them to realize how good it is for them and how important it is. So it all helps, but they're essentially, when they're coming to us as coaches, in my mind, that's what they're asking for. How do I feel better?
Something that came up for me when you were saying all of that is that sometimes good self-care doesn't feel good in the moment. Like if you need to, I don't know, like eat something healthy because you've been subsisting on chocolate bars while you're mom taxiing everyone to all of their activities, that self-care, taking that time out for yourself beyond the shame and the guilt that you might be feeling for taking that time out for yourself, it still doesn't, let's face it, broccoli doesn't taste like a chocolate bar, right? But But the self-care industry really says, bubble baths and all these luxury things that feel so wonderful, going for a massage. Don't get me wrong. Those are amazing and those are fantastic. But sometimes it's more basic than that. Sometimes it's eating the broccoli because your body needs the fuel.
I would say absolutely. I feel like the self-care culture, it really sells the whole reward and treatment version because that's easy to package and sell. That's easy to market. You see the big glamorous vacation, right? That is what's ideal. And that's how everybody self-care. I can't do that on a daily basis. So I just deprive myself of self-care. And that maintenance version is not as glamorous, right? But it's that taking the slow pauses, right? And I think there's a phrase looking for I want to say it's glimmers, where it talks about looking for things that the light shining through, basically. And that metaphor really speaks to me and has always been really effective with clients because it's you see that version of what you can be, almost like a very unburdened version, the best version of yourself. It's shining through and you kind of just have to make bigger and bigger openings of that.
Yeah, very, very well said. Very well said. Another thing I feel that drawing the boundaries, right? When we were talking about boundaries, and as a woman, we have such a hard time because we're always thinking that guilt. I supposed to serve them. I supposed to feed them. I supposed to, do it for them. It's if I don't do it, who else is going to be there? It's just we're so engraved in that, and so when we're drawing a boundary, when we're saying no to something, even just and if I want to go for a walk and maybe that time my child is crying or I'm just saying it is something happening and and I'm so overwhelmed, I need a break. But then it's just continuous process. If we learn to say no and just take a pause, just to take a step back and say, hey, the example of when you're in a flight, when anything happens, like a time of emergency, when the mask falls, put it on yourself first and then put it on your child. Because if you're not well, if you won't be able to do anything, how you're going to take care of others. So that's a biggest thing that I feel when it comes to drawing a boundary, saying no, or a delegation. We women suffer so much. And don't feel guilty. Just have a courage because then the others will understand, okay, you know what? She needs that too. Because right now we are not showing that. We are incorporating that walk for us. That is at work. We are taking that break. This is what you're also showing and projecting to your teams that you're expecting. They think we are expected to do that too. But we're breaking all those rules of how to take care of ourselves. And we're talking about mindfulness, being present, so important, but how to portray that, how to model that. It starts with you.
Something just to add to that is guilt takes away from our happiness, from our joy, right? From our presence, because we're thinking about it all the time. If we look at it that way as well, we're going to do what we need to do, or we should be doing what we need to do. And this self-care is what we need to do.
Yeah. And we talk about the guilt. And when we talk about the shame. I should be able to do this without, I shouldn't have to stop and take care of me. They need me more. We have to take a step back because what we do is what we model for the people around us. If we model that self-care is unimportant, then we model that for our children, for the team that we're working with, for the people that we're on. Okay, I'm Superwoman and I don't need self-care. I don't need to manage my well-being. And that's the road to the crash. So remembering that self-care is like a gift to oneself, and that each time you give yourself a gift, it's like reminding yourself that you have value. So many times we're busy being there for others that we lose that realization of self-value. We don't value ourselves. We don't think we're worthy of self-care, but we are. And how we treat ourselves is how others learn to treat themselves at the same time.
That kind of merged for me the concept of what you're modeling for others, because you're modeling the steps, the skills that get you to that point of self-care. And I think it tends to be a lot of, you don't know how things happen. You see the initial thing, you maybe see the end thing, but you don't see kind of all the steps in between, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't. And so as a parent, as a leader, being able to almost like talk through and explain, what you're doing that is self-care for yourself is so crucial. And I agree with Coach Sarah was saying, is that like, that's how you change the mindset. That's how you shift the culture and turn it around, is that it's something that needs to be done daily. It's something that needs to be valued. Just as Coach Joyce said, that so you don't have that shame and guilt, and you can just focus on what it's giving you and how to get that.
Beautiful.
There's a lot of wonderful things that were brought up. Before we finish up here, coaches, what is the one thing that you hope that the person with us today will take away from this conversation?
Honestly, for me, it's just a reminder that it's okay to look after yourself. It's important for me to take care of myself first, not just for me, but for other people as well.
I would say that every choice we make, we're teaching our mind, we're teaching our body, and also the people around us. Teach yourself well first, and that's going to be reflected wherever you go.
Give yourself permission to do what you need and take the time to think about what that might be.
I would say that the self-care, it's an investment in yourself. And that investment, there's a wide range of what you can do. So testing out what works for you.
Beautiful. I love that so much, everyone. That was fantastic. So for you, if something in this conversation named a feeling that you haven't had words for, that's worth the next step. Head over to betteryou.coach/start and book your free, no obligation connection call. At minimum, you'll walk away with a real next step. But before we go, Radhika, where's the best place for people to find you?
Absolutely. So my company is called analyzeandact.com. So there's a website. I've got a Bridge to College Independence program, college readiness checklist, but then I also do one-on-ones to kind of meet people where they are right now.
Perfect. All the links for that will be in the description, as well as a way to reach all of us. And if you go to betteryou.coach/start and you book a consultation with me as a placement specialist, and you say, I know Dr. Radhika is not part of BetterYou, but I really want to work with her, that's all you need to tell me, and I'll make sure to connect you with her or any of our own coaches. Thank you for watching. Always remember that you matter, so please take care. See you next time. Oh, hey, thanks for watching. Since you watched this video, we thought you might really like this video. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe right there for more great videos. Plus, tap that notification bell so that you don't miss any videos at all. Comment your thoughts below and see you next time.